I got you guys together here because I want to talk to you about Evolve. It was the cover of issue 250, and you guys got to visit Turtle Rock Studios in California. They're the creators of Left 4 Dead, and you got to play some of the game. It's an asymmetrical multiplayer game, focused on competitive. One dude's a huge monster that grows throughout the matches, and the other players are, I think there's 4 hunters that are trying to track him down, kind of like Aliens style, and you got to work together to take him down.
Correct.
So you guys have played it. I want to know what it's like to actually play the game. Like, I played a lot of Left 4 Dead. If I had a controller, how does this game feel like between playing the monster and the hunters?
Yeah, like you said, so much of it is dependent on which side you're playing as. They're completely different experiences. When you're at the monster, you don't start off weak necessarily, but you're definitely on your defense because there are 4 other players that are trying to get you, and if they manage to surround you and work together and they're smart, they can take you out pretty quickly if they know what they're doing. So basically, at first you're just kind of doing your best to avoid being detected, feeding on local wildlife to kind of evolve. Eventually, upgrading your powers to the point where you just annihilate everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, when you're playing as the monster, it very much feels like a competitive game since you're all alone. But when you're actually playing as one of the hunters, it feels like a co-op game very similar to Left 4 Dead, although the actual gameplay is a little bit different because the environment isn't as much of a threat to you as, in Left 4 Dead, I think you're just constantly being bombarded by all these zombies. And the cool thing about Evolve is that you have these different animals that live out in the wildlife, except they all have different AI, and sometimes they'll attack you and sometimes they won't, so there's a little bit of strategy there. But mostly you're just focusing on, finding this giant monster and taking him down, hopefully as a group.
And as a monster, so by eating like the indigenous life and all these other monsters and stuff, do you eat enough of them and then you start like go into a cocoon and change?
Briefly, right.
Okay.
Yep.
And then as hunters, so I get that part, but like as hunters, you're killing these. Are you leveling up then? And there's just sort of like a skill bar like a progress bar that's being filled up as you kill monsters?
There is some kind of experience, like outside of the different rounds, you won't be leveling up. You won't like be stronger at the end of a match than you were, at the beginning of the match. But the interesting thing about the hunters is that they each have their own unique items and equipment, and there are a bunch of different or at least a couple different characters for each class.
I mean, that's definitely one of the big differences from like Left 4 Dead, because it was pretty much like, do you have a regular shotgun or do you have like the semi-automatic shotgun? There wasn't a lot of progress, so that's a new thing for Turtle Rock.
There are also temporary buffs that you get in matches as well, too.
Okay.
So you might, for instance, pick something up that gives you like a longer boost to your jetpack, you know what I mean, which increases your mobility or may increase how quickly you regenerate health or something like that. So there's kind of a dynamic where not only do you want to get that for yourself, but you also want to keep the opposing force from getting it.
I'm assuming that, the overall thing is like Monster wants to wipe out the hunters and vice versa, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Because I played as the Goliath one round, and I was able to win the match by doing a secondary objective, which was to destroy kind of this base where the AI humans were located.
So there's some like interior locations as well? And so you had to like go in the base as the monster?
I was primarily outside destroying some generators and then killing some people that were like flagged as being like a priority targets.
Okay.
Yeah, and each level will have that kind of secondary objective. Turtle Rock described it as kind of having this additional objective that people can kind of rally around later in the game, so that you're not always just constantly chasing each other around. There's this kind of focus point where you can say, like, once you get leveled up to a certain point, it's like, all right, I'm going to go for that now, since all the hunters are out hiding somewhere because they're afraid of me at this point.
Yeah. I think one of the most exciting things, especially for me from playing a lot of Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, was you finally get to become the tank. And it's a big deal. You can really mess people up, and everyone really has to focus on the tank. Otherwise, you can take out all the survivors if they're not careful. But, one of the frustrating things in that was if they're cooperating really well, they could take you out pretty quickly. Sometimes your life bar would just drain. I'm curious if you've experienced anything like that with Evolve, or if you just already feel like immediately like a powerhouse as the Goliath.
I wouldn't say immediately. I felt pretty vulnerable at first, and a lot of it is just scrambling to evolve as quickly as possible. And there's kind of a risk-reward system at play where you can run and jump and everything, but you'll make noise, you'll alert birds and other wildlife to your presence, and you'll also leave tracks where you go, which the other players can look and see. You know, they've got like a visual indicator, like what direction you've been going. So you can go into like a stealth mode and kind of creep along. You'll obviously go slower, but then you won't leave those telltale marks.
And also, when you're in the stealth mode, I don't think you and me really did too much in the stealth mode. We weren't very good at that. But they said that one of the other things that when you're in the stealth mode, you can pounce on characters, and it works like the hunter in Left 4 Dead,
Yeah.
where once you pounce on someone, that person is just completely vulnerable until someone else
or getting
comes
like
across.
a smoker's
Yeah.
choking you or something, and you're incapacitated.
Yeah.
So just keeping everyone like near one another.
Yeah, and so
Okay.
that gives the monster a big advantage if he can, kind of single one person out and stay hidden long enough, as opposed to always just chucking giant rocks at him or breathing fire and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So
And so this is next gen only.
Correct.
Okay, so PC, Xbox One, PS4 is that what people can look forward to? And then
Yes.
have they announced any sort of like ETA as far as we can expect? Is it going to be 2014?
2014.
it's supposed to be in the fall.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like a good time.
It is.